Welcome back to another episode of Vertigo for the Hardcore. This is your host, Sean, and you are not going to want to miss this episode. So I say, hey, cue the music and let's go. Vertigo Nation, welcome back. This is your host, Sean. Thank you for joining me. If you are new here, please take a minute right now and go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You are not going to want to miss any episode of Vertigo for the Hardcore. Yes, it's been rebranded. This is Vertigo for the Hardcore. You're still going to find me on the Vertigo Podcast channel. Don't worry, nothing's changing there. Just the title. And that's just because I needed to reinvent myself a little bit. And that's it. That's all there is to it. So hit subscribe. And for those who are joining me on the regular, thank you, and thank you. So today I've got a whole bunch of things that I want to talk about, actually. I want to talk about the curse of being a realist, which is something that I've dealt with in my life. I want to talk about what's coming up on some future episodes because I'm really excited about that. And we're also going to be digging into what's on my playlist. But it's only going to be one song. And it's one song that I'm feeling very, I don't know, I'm just catching some feels for, man. I'm just loving this song right now. And I want to share it. I have talked about it on past episodes. So that's it. That's all there is to it. Let's get going. So again, thank you. This is your host, Sean. And thank you so much for joining me. So let's get the big news out of the way. For the first time in a long time, I have a guest scheduled for Vertigo. I'm very excited about it. His name is Dr. Michael Bagnall, or Bagnall. I'm not sure. I have a weird pronunciation. It's a mix of. So my mom is from Queens. My dad is from Brooklyn, and then born and raised in Central New York. So this weird mix of pronunciations come in. A little Queens, a little Brooklyn, and a whole lot of Central New York in there. So I know that I say things that sound really fucked up. So it just is what it is. And I make no apologies for it. But thank you for listening. And is your head spinning yet? Let's get on with the episode. So this is the episode. No, that's not. This is an episode, yes. But this is the podcast that will make your head spin. Sean, you're all over the place. I know. It's been a wild morning. I've had 2 cups of coffee. Can you tell? It's time to go. So, first things first. Yes. So I've got a guest coming up for the first time in a long time. His name is Dr. Bagnall. He is a functional neurologist. He's also runs the Bagnall Brain Center in Florida. So go ahead, please Google him. If you don't know what functional neurology is, you're going to be in for a real treat because I've gone down the rabbit hole. But that's all I'm going to say right now, as much as it pains me. As much as I could do a whole episode on what I've learned about functional neurology, I'm not going to do it. Why? Because he's going to be coming on the show and we're going to be talking about it. So stay tuned for that. Still in the works of taking over my social medias. I haven't done it yet. I've been dragging my feet a little bit, if I'm going to be honest. Because everybody on the show who's been a regular listener from day one, you know how I feel about social media. It is definitely my Achilles heel. And yeah, I know that I need to dive in. But first of all, I don't know, man. I just have such a hard time with social media. It's weird. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the arm wrestling match is with it. I just don't like it. I don't know. So that's all I can say about it. I've made my, I've voiced my concerns. We've had deep discussions about it, and I just have not been able to get on the bandwagon. So I know that I need to. Vertigo deserves it. Y'all deserve it, but I do struggle with it. So maybe I just need a manager. Maybe I need to start finding somebody who just wants to manage me. That could be a full-time position. I'm like herding cats. If you haven't figured that out from listening to the episode. I wouldn't want to sign anybody up for that. And it would be a volunteer position, which makes it even worse. So, anyway, moving on. I've been told many times in my life that I am a realist, and it's always been brought to me as if that's some type of negative. And so I ended up doing a deep dive the other day on, like, because it was brought up to me at work again. They're like, "Man, you were just such a pessimist." I'm like, "I'm not a pessimist. I'm just real. Like, I see the situation for what it is." And then I had a counselor actually tell me once, when you say it is what it is, they're like, "That's the language of an angry man." I'm like, "Well, I guess I'm pissed because I use that a lot. It is what it is." I don't see it that way. I don't see it as being a negative. I don't see it as being pessimistic actually at all. And to me, it's like, no, it's about acceptance. This is the situation. It's not that I don't want the situation to change. It's not that I don't want the situation to be different. It's just acceptance of this is where I am. This is the shit pile that I'm standing in. And I acknowledge that and I accept it. And I guess it's time to grab a shovel. That's just what it is, right? If you're standing in a pile, so that's just how it is. Then you got to grab a shovel and you got to start shoveling your way out, right? I had also a therapist. I've seen a lot of different therapists. Now I want to be clear, actually, before y'all start wondering why I've seen so many therapists. Some of these therapists I've also met professionally in throughout because, like I said, I did work in human services for a little while before I landed where I am now, and so I had the opportunity of working with a lot of social workers and such too. So they haven't all been necessarily just for me, although. We'll just leave that right there. I'm not even going to make a comment about that. So, but I did have a colleague who was also a therapist tell me once, and I forgot actually where I was going with this whole thing. So this is Vertigo, the podcast that will make your head spin. See, because mine's already spinning. It's spun right out of control to the fact that I forgot the point that I was going to make. Um, okay, so I had a therapist once tell me, I'm ready to get back on track now. Okay, I had a therapist once tell me that if something is fucked up, the only thing that you can do then is unfuck it. Which sounds, yeah, like I think I had that deer in the headlights look when I was told that too, and I remember just kind of blankly staring at her, going, right, right. But all these years later, and it's weird how that always happens. It's always like years later, at least for me. It's like all of a sudden, years later, I'll have this epiphany and be going. There's what I'm talking about all these weird accents coming. That wasn't an accent, that was just poor English. But I'd be going, what? That makes sense now all of a sudden. I understand. Because now I'm in a situation that is fucked, and the only thing that I can do is unfuck it. And yeah, so anyway, before I digress, or maybe I've already digressed. We're already there. We're in the low spots. The only thing that we can do now is shoot for the moon and hope that we make it there. Okay, let's start climbing. So if you're standing in a shit pile, man, the only thing that you can do is acknowledge that I'm standing in a pile of shit, and therefore what I need to do is grab a shovel and start shoveling my way out. That's what I'm saying is being the realist view. I don't find that as being negative. Cynical sometimes. I'm very cynical at times, but that's just my sense of humor, in my opinion. You know, so I guess I want to just kind of talk about, like, I think that there are different types of realism. Now, this is just solely based on my own life's like journey and research, and just where I've been over the years. I don't feel so I did no research, I guess is what I'm trying to say. There's no AI overview. There's none of that. It's just this is what it is. All right. I think personally, if you are a realist, there's also a trap that is set there. It is absolutely okay, in my opinion, to see the world as it is without rose colored glasses. I think that's fine. I don't think there's a problem with that. Matter of fact, I challenge people to we need to look at that, right? Because if you really do want to facilitate change, if you really do want things to change, we first have to accept that this is where we are. This is where we're at. This is the way that things are. I mean, that's a basic tenet. AA, you cannot get past step one without acknowledging that you are powerless to your addiction. That's step one. So acknowledging that we are powerless in a sense, this is where we're at. This is the world. This is how it's spinning, and it's going to spin with my existence or not. However, if I want to make it better, then I also need to understand that it's not going to just happen. There has to be some work that has to put in. That to me is what a realist is. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But I don't think that I'm wrong. I think that that's what that is. And so I've been told many, many times over, you're so negative. You're just so negative. You're just so negative. No, I don't feel like that at all. I feel like, no, I am just honest about the way that I see things, but that doesn't mean that I don't want to facilitate any change. And I think that's the important part. It is, I do want to facilitate change. I do want to grow. I do want to be better. I do want to, you know, I want to have goals, which leads me to another thought. So this is my other thought. So I'm sitting on the couch the other day and I'm thinking about this. Like, I watched The Secret years and years and years and years ago. And I'm in this phase of life now of contemplating. And I remember watching The Secret. And if you've never seen The Secret, it's really just the law of attraction repackaged and rebranded. So positive thoughts, positive energy brings us positivity. Negative thoughts, negative energy brings us negativity. I think that's fair to say that that's true, right? I mean, if we are down in, it seems to me that if we're down in the dumps and we're kind of living in the negative, then it seems like everything is negative. And we've been there. I've been there, right? I mean, I think that's kind of what depression is in its basic form. And I know I'm taking away a lot of the science and things, but I don't have any letters after my name. This is just a blue collar view of what it is. It is what it is. Oh, there we go again, man. The curse of the. What are you talking about? That's the language of an angry man. Well, I'm not angry. I'm going to tell you that right now. So let's get moving. All right. It is what it is. What? Um. So no, I think that acknowledgement is important. If we want to change, we have to acknowledge where we are. But I also understand that if we are in a negative space, then it's probably difficult to think about being positive. And that's where I started thinking about The Secret, because The Secret makes it sound so easy. Well, if you want a million dollars, just do a vision board and then in some time you'll have $1 million. It's like, well, that's all well and good, but the realist in me pokes its head and says, I don't think that's really quite how it works. I can want $1 million and I can do a vision board with $1 million on it, but I need to do something to get there. That's the realist. Now, is that a curse? I don't know. Here's what I see for my vision board. I want $1 million. So I need to get to work, roll up the sleeves, and start doing. Now, I also think that putting some positive energy into what I'm doing would surely make the experience more beneficial and probably more, I don't know, better, I guess, all the way around. But it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. And it doesn't mean that there aren't going to be, you know, tribulations and hang-ups and trips-ups and whatever, pitfalls. And it's like, that's the thing. I say, so is it wrong because I see all of that? Is it wrong because I acknowledge that? I don't feel like that makes me a negative person because I say, listen, I want to make $1 million. And it's going to be a hell of a ride to get there. But it's possible. It's doable. I mean, look around. People are millionaires. So I think that there's a trap of saying, well, I can't do it. And there's the trap of acknowledging where I am right now and that it's a long road to get there. But it doesn't mean it's impossible. So that's just my thought about it, I guess. I just needed to flush that out. Because the truth is, it kind of pissed me off when they're like, when I was told, oh, you're being a pessimist. You're such a realist. It's like, no, I just choose not to wear rose-colored glasses. I see the world for what it is. This is the world that we live in. This is what it is. Period. What is wrong with that? I don't think there's anything wrong with it. So, here we are. Yeah, so I guess I'm going to drop that right there, I guess. That's all I can say about it for now. But anyway, yeah, being a realist. But I will tell you this, actually. No, I'm not going to drop it right there. I'm going to say something more. I believe that my journey in healing has been because I've been able to accept where I am and then challenge myself to move further down the road and not be stuck, you know? So, I don't know. That's just how I feel. So for you that called me a realist, I guess that's my, that's my, fuck you. Yeah, that's what that is. All right. The other thing that I really want to talk about is what's on my playlist. This has been something for me personally. There is a song out right now by a band called Atreyu. Now, Atreyu, and I've talked about this song on prior podcasts, but I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into it today because one, it's if you're a modern rock listener, so if you listen to any modern rock radio station, for us up here in Central New York, I listen to K Rock. This song is all over the place. Atreyu's been around for a while. They came around in the early 2000s in that whole, I guess, it was post grunge, but it was like, you know, it was The Used and Coheed and Cambria and My Chemical Romance, that era of bands. So kind of that emo, goth a little bit, post hardcore, all of that was kind of blended together. If you care about genres and if you care about labels, um, I do and I don't, I guess, but it doesn't matter. So Atreyu, and they've had hits here and there over the years, but all of a sudden, 2026, or actually, I think it was released in 2025. If you want to be technical, so this song was called "All for You." If you have not listened to the song, I'm gonna tell you, pause the podcast, whatever, go listen to it. First of all, if you appreciate just good music, the song is extremely well written. So if you're just one of those people who enjoys like just the intricate, why can't I figure out what that word is? You ever have that happen where you're going to search for a word, it's in your brain, but your mouth just can't seem to pronounce it? I don't know what it's like. I can't even say it now. Holy shit. I'm going to have to Google it and pronounce it, I think. And I'll do that in a minute. I don't want to take away from the flow. But I already took away from the flow because I'm already talking about what the word is. Intricate. Oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. And I'm going to leave this in the podcast too, this whole thing, because it's a fucking mess. Welcome to Vertigo. This is the podcast that will make your head spin. And this is exactly why right now, because your host gets lost down the ADHD trail. We took a left, we should have took a right. Now we're in the thick of it. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm going to have to Google it. We're talking about Atreyu. We're talking about a song called All For You. If you're lost, we're going to start right there. Pause this for a minute, but make sure you come back and finish the episode. But listen to the song All For You by the band Atreyu. The reason I'm bringing this up, I think, first of all, the music is incredible. That's what I was originally saying. The lyrics are also equally incredible. This is the first song that I think that I've heard that has been blatant about a male being a victim of an abusive relationship. And I say blatant because if you read the lyrics, and again, this is just my opinion, if you read the lyrics, it's pretty in your face what the writer is talking about. And I just love this spin, because the title and the chorus, you would make it sound like this incredible love song. But then you really read through the verses, and it really talks about everything that's been taken from him in this relationship and how he's now turning that being a victim into being a survivor. That to me is the core message of the song. And I just think it's absolutely incredible for two reasons. One, the music and the lyrics, like I said, I can't tell you enough, are just extremely well written. Then you add the fact that we've got a male talking about being a survivor of this abusive relationship. That to me is just like the chef's kiss, man. It's like, wow, the fact that you are putting yourself out there. And the reason I bring up the band A Tree, because they came from this like heavier music. They're not metal in the aspect of extreme metal, like death metal, things that we've talked about in prior episodes. There's an Easter egg if you want to go back and listen to the episode of Maddox. But it is definitely heavier rock music, but it's not metal. But the fact that we have this band who has been in this hardcore community, and he's being he's being upfront about, lyrically, here's where I'm at. I don't know. It's incredible, I think, when you see men share vulnerability. That's really what it is that I'm trying to say. Well, thank you for getting there, sir. Yeah, you're welcome. I was getting there. I was absolutely on my way. Yeah, I know. It just took you a minute. Well, that's because this is Vertigo, and it just wouldn't be me if it took me a minute. Can we get on with the episode though? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so the vulnerability that is there is just absolutely incredible. And so I would challenge anybody to just listen to the song, even if it's not your style of music. Listen to the song and really just kind of put yourself in the headspace of what the writer is saying. And I think it's incredible. And so that's one of the things that's been on my playlist a lot. I've actually been listening to that song on repeat quite a bit, and have not gotten burned out from it at all, actually. I think it's just incredible. And I obviously feel, I guess, some type of attachment to it, because some of the lyrics in there, I'm like, wow, man, that's crazy. And so, yeah, I'm going to challenge that. The other thing I want to say is I made a comment about manufactured music, feeling that we've entered a place in time where music is just, it's produced to the max. Um, it just sounds slick. It sounds just, everything sounds so perfect. And I talked about this in the last episode, that I don't want to live in a sterile world, and I don't. But I'm also not going to rehash that whole episode when you can just simply go back and listen to it. But one of the artists that I brought up, because this ties into what's on my playlist, one of the artists that I brought up was Poppy. She is a female artist. She's absolutely incredible. And I want to just take back something that I said. So I had said that music is so slickly produced that there's no way that it can be performed live without backing tracks and so forth. Well, then enter Poppy. She's got this song right now called Time Will Tell. And also, just similar to the Atreyu song, very well written piece of music. Lyrics are great. I love when artists really just hone their craft this way. Lyrics are incredible. They're incredible songwriters. The music is just incredible, draws you in, right? And so anyway, I went down this rabbit hole of watching Poppy live, and I should have done this probably before I recorded the episode. So, but I'm telling you, it was a little late, and I did it after the episode was released. And so I was watching Poppy perform Time Will Tell live. Her band absolutely nails it. They play that song live. You can tell it's live because when you're watching the YouTube videos, you can just tell. I don't know. If you're a music fan, when you're listening to a piece of music, you can tell if the band is actually playing it live or if there's backing tracks. I don't know how to flush that out other than it. You just know. And I'm telling you, from watching those videos, she was really singing. There wasn't a backing track. Because she was off key in a couple of places, not horribly, but she was off key, and you could tell. And also, you could hear the guitar player singing along with her, but you could also see the guitar player playing in sync to what was being played, as well as the drummer. Matter of fact, there was one video where the drums were extremely loud, and he was actually off. He was behind the beat a little bit, and I am a drummer, so I can tell you that with confidence that he was off a little bit. There was just one quick section he got off. His snare was off just a little bit, and then he jumped right back into time. But you could tell it kind of threw the band off for a minute. So my point being in all of this is not to pick at the band. It's to actually celebrate that that's what live music is supposed to be. And so I was actually really excited to see that. So I also wanted to just put out kind of this thing and recant my statement that, because I mentioned her specifically, Poppy, and no, she is doing it and she is performing live, and I just want to say that's incredible. I was really, I guess, just felt inspired for a minute listening, like, okay, there are artists that are actually not performing the background tapes or tracks, and they're actually going out there and they're just doing it. So Poppy is doing it. And I do absolutely love that song, Time Will Tell. It's weird, man. We've entered this, modern rock is weird right now. It's like this weird blend of pop music, metal, and rock. And there's a lot of bands that are out there doing it. Dayseeker, I've talked about them before. Bad Omens, I've talked about them before. It's growing on me. I wasn't quite sure if I liked it or not, but here's the weird thing too. I mean, I kind of get it because I feel like I grew up in a time of music, through the late 80s into the 90s where, rock music was still prominent. That was the prominent style of music, but hip hop was coming on hard, especially the late 80s, early 90s. Hip hop started to become like the new pop music. I mean, and we see that, hip hop has influenced, I think, so many genres now that yeah, hip hop became the mainstream. Hip hop was like punk music in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. Matter of fact, if you watch any documentaries, a lot of hip hop artists performed in New York City at least with punk bands on the bill, and because it was just all underground music. And you can kind of see now how hip hop has influenced, or rap, whatever you want to call it, has influenced so much of popular music. And now there's this blend even in metal of, there's almost, and I mean, we saw it before. I guess it's nothing new. Rage Against the Machine, Limp Bizkit, and so forth. We had rap metal bands. New metal, I guess was hip hop flavored metal with Korn and Deftones and, shit like that. So, anyway, um, completely lost my train of thought as normal. Listen to Poppy. Time will tell. But also listen to Atreyu. All for you. Atreyu, Atreyu, Atreyu. Listen to that song, All For You. That is an incredible, incredible song. So with that being said, anybody watch the Conor McGregor fight? Man, what a disappointment that was. We haven't talked about MMA in a minute. Well, probably because I haven't had my boys on in a minute. We got to get them on. And it would only be fair to talk with Sean about UFC, but I'm going to just say I did watch the Conor McGregor fight. I actually stayed up till the end. It wasn't that hard to do, actually, because I think McGregor was doing his walkouts around 11, so it wasn't too bad. It wasn't like one of these crazy 1 o'clock in the morning things. But yeah, so excited to see, what Conor was going to do. He's been off for years. I didn't expect him to win. I want to put that out there. I did not think that Conor was going to beat Max. Max has been an active fighter. He's looked great in his last few fights, losses or not. He's looked great in my opinion. He's brought it every time. Where Conor's been out of the fight game for 5 years, maybe more. So I just didn't really expect it to go Conor's way, but I did expect it to be a barn burner. I thought that this was going to be one of those fights that was just edge of the couch, whatever. And then it turned out to be absolutely a dud, right? McGregor comes out like his past few fights now, comes out, injures right off the bell. I think it was a minute and 9 seconds, and the fight was called. So just like, wow, so disappointing, right? And I guess now we can at least say, thankfully, we're not spending, buku dollars on pay-per-views. I'm kind of glad that era is ending, to be honest with you. I remember as a kid, man, sitting and waiting for Mike Tyson to fight. And we never bought pay-per-views. First of all, we didn't have cable until I was in high school. And not for any other reason than we lived in an area where it just wasn't available. Can you believe that? We lived in an area where cable just was not yet available. And it wasn't until I was in high school that they actually started running, coax lines and whatnot to the more rural areas. So when I was in high school, we got cable. And I think I was probably a sophomore or junior in high school, so 91, 92, when I finally was able to purchase a Mike Tyson fight. And I remember being so excited. I saved my money up for, I can't remember how much pay-per-views were back then, but, it was still expensive for the time, comparable, right? But I remember saving up my money and getting to watch Mike Tyson fight. And, like, it was one of those things where it's like the whole buildup of him coming down to the ring was like the most exciting part of the fight, because once he got in the ring and the bell rang, it was over. He knocked the dude out like that quickly. I think it was done in like 23 seconds. I'm gonna have to look it up actually. And on the next Vertigo episode, I will talk about who it is that he fought. I'm gonna have to Google it. It wasn't long before he ended up going to prison, I think, because I don't remember when all that went down. But and talk about somebody who's made changes in their life, at least in the public view, right? I mean, Mike Tyson went from this person who was absolutely just ostracized for his actions. I mean, we know he was convicted of rape. I do believe. That there was some domestic violence in there. But look at the journey that he's been in now, and he's accepted all of that. It isn't one of these things where he's not a celebrity. At least from any interviews that I've seen, he's not a celebrity who's come out and denied. And matter of fact, he's completely done the opposite and said, "No, I absolutely was a raging alcoholic and out of my mind and did it and was a terrible person." Like, he doesn't deny any of it, which I think is what makes it more commendable. And then says, "And I needed to be." Well, I think what he said is, "I ate a shit ton of mushrooms, tripped my balls off, and then made some positive changes." I don't know. That's quite the story. And I'm not saying that we should, go eat handfuls of shrooms. I don't know nothing about that. But anyway, we're all over the place, man. Did I tell you that this is Vertigo for the hardcore? This is the podcast that will make your head spin. Hey, so I'm going to wrap this episode up, actually. But I just wanted to remind everybody, because I haven't talked about it since the beginning of the episode, a whole 30 minutes ago. But I do have a guest scheduled. Dr. Michael Bagnall is going to be coming on the podcast. He's a functional neurologist, so you're not going to want to miss that episode. That is coming up. Thank you so much for everybody who hangs and listens and comes back repeatedly. Again, if you're new here, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and continue to support Vertigo and be part of the Vertigo Nation. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this podcast made your head spin. It certainly did mine today. It certainly did mine. My head is spinning. But yeah, be well, everybody, and hang in there till the next episode. Be well. Love one another.